The National Desk, America's News, now.
It's a nor'easter. The latest snowstorm to hit the East Coast is causing havoc on the roads and impacting travel all across the country.
We did our job, and now the voters were going to make that decision.
They want us working together to actually solve the problems they care about. Immigration, cost of living, climate, whatever it may be.
It's Swazi versus Mazi in the first congressional election of the year, a bellwether of what could be a contentious election season. And is the COVID era truly over? Inside the CDC's new adjustment on how soon you can emerge after an infection. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Tonight, 46 million people under winter weather alerts. Taking a live look now at our National Desk radar, and you can see a massive New England storm impacting everywhere from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut to Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. Now, in terms of snowfall numbers, we are getting a sense at exactly how much we can expect. A foot of snow in Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, and northwestern New Jersey, along with 6 to 8 inches in Boston and New York City, making it the biggest in those cities in 2 years. The nation's largest school system in New York City moved to remote learning today. And this storm creating a huge impact on travel. More than 1,500 flights canceled today, more than 12,000 flights delayed. Meantime, in New Jersey, the governor there saying that there has been an incredible impact on road travel. 250 weather-related accidents reported at the height of the storm. Tonight, the Senate's $95 billion aid package is facing an uncertain future as it heads to the House. Designed to help Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, the bill passed at 6 a.m. this morning, hours after House Speaker Mike Johnson said it needs to include money for the border to get approved. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that not sending this package to President Biden is a win for Russia.
But if the hard right kills this bill, it would be an enormous gift to Vladimir Putin. It would be a betrayal of our partners and allies and an abandonment of our service members.
Meantime, President Biden echoing that sentiment while condemning former President Trump for his recent NATO comments.
No other president in our history has ever bowed down to a Russian dictator. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I never will. For God's sake, it's dumb, it's shameful, it's dangerous, it's un-American.
The House of Representatives is expected to begin voting at 6:30 tonight on a series of bills, including a second attempt at impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. The first attempt failed last week, 214 to 216, but Majority Leader Steve Scalise is back in Washington today. And with his vote, Republicans expect to pass the impeachment largely along party lines. The migrant crisis is the driving force of that attempted impeachment, as large cities are forced to grapple with an overwhelming number of migrants that in some cases has come with an uptick in crime. National correspondent Janae Bowens has a look at the growing problem.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Top leaders in New York City say a wave of migrant crime has washed over the city. Although murders, rapes, and burglaries are down, robberies are up by more than 8% compared to this time last year. And there are several headlines of foreign gang members terrorizing innocent New Yorkers and a teen migrant accused of shooting and injuring a tourist in Times Square.
They avoid apprehension and make their way to every town, city, and state.
Nearly 800,000 migrants have crossed the southern border in fiscal year 2024 so far. And according to the New York Post, some of those migrants are part of a brutal Venezuelan gang. Their members are reportedly going to New York City and recruiting members and migrant shelters, and could also be joining forces with the MS-13 gang. Former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Mark Morgan, says it's an issue that's been going on all over the country for years.
A lot of these individuals, they don't speak the language, they have no job skills, they have no familiar connection here, and no way to make a living, and so they make just prime targets for gang recruitment.
The gang members are accused of riding mopeds to steal people's phones. They then drain the victims' bank accounts and send the phones to Colombia to be wiped, reprogrammed, and sold. On top of that, 7 migrants have been indicted in connection to an assault of 2 NYPD officers last month.
The overwhelming number of migrants and asylum seekers are law-abiding, and they're pursuing the American dream. And this district attorney's office and the NYPD will partner with each other to pursue those who break the laws in our city.
The mayor has put in a curfew for 20 more migrant shelters.
We should be coming up with policies and throwing our money at the border to secure the border, to stop the chaos and lawlessness, to stop criminals from entering the country.
Many calling for more action at the border to keep Americans safe. I'm Janae Bowens reporting for the National Desk.
Janae, thank you. Right now in Gaza, displaced Palestinians fleeing Rafah as international concern mounts over the fate of civilians, while the Israeli military prepares for a larger offensive in the city, which borders Egypt. We are getting a first look at the destruction after a fresh round of airstrikes overnight. And this is Rafah's Al Shabura neighborhood. These neighborhoods have been a refuge for 1.4 million civilians trying to run from war hostilities in the northern part of the enclave. Several plans for where those evacuees can go have been proposed, but none have been approved. And tonight, international negotiators say Israel and Hamas are making progress toward another ceasefire and hostage release deal. Mediators from the U.S., including the CIA director, Israel, Qatar, and Egypt meeting today in Cairo. President Biden says a potential deal would free the rest of the hostages and pause the fighting for at least 6 weeks. Still, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pressing on, vowing, quote, total victory before the fighting ends. Right now, voters in New York's 3rd congressional district are heading to the polls for a consequential special election to replace former GOP Congressman George Santos. Democrat Tom Suozzi facing off against Republican Mazi Pilip, who served in the Israeli Defense Forces. The winter storm could be affecting turnout in what's expected to be a very tight race.
Enough of this BS in Washington, D.C., with everybody just attacking each other. People are sick of that.
Whatever it is, we're going to respect the results. Maybe tonight we're going to celebrate. If not, the latest is going to be tomorrow morning.
And flight attendants began picketing at 30 airports across the country today as they push for higher wages and new contracts. 3 separate unions joined together for the walkout and called it a national day of action. Federal law prohibits airline unions from striking. The unions point towards pay raises that pilots have received recently and that they want similar compensation. Wichita police have arrested a 45-year-old man for the theft of a bronze Jackie Robinson statue last month that was found dismantled and burned in an attempt to melt the statue. Authorities say the motivation seems financial in nature and was not a race-related crime. The man arrested was picked up yesterday on unrelated charges. Special counsel Jack Smith has 1 week to respond to former President Trump's request to keep his D.C. 2020 election trial on hold during the ongoing appeals process. Trump urged the Supreme Court last night to keep the trial on hold while he appeals a lower ruling that he is not immune from indictment. Today, the justices gave Smith the deadline to respond by next Tuesday. More than half of Americans, they think President Joe Biden got preferential treatment in the special counsel investigation into the mishandling of confidential documents that ended with no charges. That's according to a Reuters Ipsos poll out today. 64%, including 50% of Democrats, said it is believable that Biden took the information illegally, while 68% say it is believable Donald Trump also took classified documents illegally. Trump still faces felony charges in Florida regarding his handling of classified documents. And tonight, the House Oversight Committee moving forward on their impeachment inquiry into the president. They just released the transcript from a meeting with one of the former business partners and met with another one today. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell with more.
Ms. Bobulinski, what are you planning to tell us? Former Hunter Biden business partner Tony Bobulinski on Capitol Hill for a closed-door interview with the House Oversight Committee. We obtained a copy of his opening statement in which he calls Joe Biden, quote, the brand being sold by the Biden family, which he says sold out to foreign actors seeking to gain influence and access to Joe Biden and the United States government. Foreign actors involved in companies in places like Russia, China, and Ukraine.
China's our biggest adversary, and we need to know exactly what the Chinese were paying the Biden family members for. Good evening.
Bobulinski first came forward in October of 2020, one of the first to suggest Hunter Biden's business deals involved not only other Biden family members, but Joe Biden himself, referencing emails like this, summarizing the allocation of equity of a deal those involved say never came to fruition.
There's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden.
This contradicts what the White House has said time and time again. As another transcript just released with another Biden business partner, Rob Walker, suggests Joe Biden did drop by a meeting with officials from the Chinese energy company CEFC, likely in 2017 when Joe Biden was out of office. The White House has maintained Joe Biden never had any influence over his son's businesses and certainly never profited from them, as the investigation to prove otherwise carries on.
When it comes to issues like corruption and personal enrichment, it's pretty clear cut. Either you got money and you didn't. Either you had meetings and you didn't. And the fact of the matter is that they have not answered those questions clearly.
Hunter Biden himself is scheduled to sit for a closed-door deposition on February 28th, where House investigators say they hope they get answers to many of these questions, and which critics say is simply an attempt to keep the spotlight on the Biden family businesses in an election year. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National Desk.
Okay, Christine, and coming up, why prices didn't come down as much as experts had hoped in January's very disappointing inflation report. Then COVID quarantining could soon be history, how the government is considering changing its guidelines for people infected with the virus. And later, many of us will be indulging in chocolate on Valentine's Day. New research now revealing more about how it impacts the brain. We're back in 90 seconds. It was a tough day for Wall Street after the latest consumer inflation report showed prices did not cool down as much as investors had hoped. That means high interest rates could stick around until early summer. And national correspondent Atral Al-Nashar has a look at where experts say prices are heading.
For almost 3 years, Americans' budgets have been weighed down by post-pandemic life inflation. The inflation rate moving at a snail's pace toward 2%, what the Federal Reserve considers normal, in January inching down to 3.1%.
We look at trends. That is something that we do here, and not read too much to data from 1 month. But we certainly understand that there's more work to be done to lower costs.
The White House insisting the economy's made progress, and while polls show Americans' feelings about the economy are improving, sentiment levels are still below historical averages, according to the University of Michigan. New analysis from J.P. Morgan says, absent a recession next year, we don't see inflation getting all the way back down to 2%. A big reason why? the cost of services remains stubbornly high in the face of a labor shortage. The CEO of Waste Management explains how it's affecting them.
We have really looked at our cost side of our business because revenue is fine, but cost needed to be addressed as we look at jobs that are starting to kind of become precious for us.
When it comes to groceries, it's a mixed bag. The price of some items is lower than it was a year ago, like milk, eggs, coffee. At the same time, the American Farm Bureau Federation is out with a new warning about beef prices, which they say could soon reach record highs after 3 consecutive years of drought.
The Southern Plains, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, some of those regions experiencing back-to-back-to-back drought. At the same time, we had inflation rising and bringing up our supply costs.
Another top driver of inflation that doesn't have a quick or easy fix, shelter. Rent is 6% higher than it was a year ago. And for many, buying a home is out of the question as the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates high, hoping that will bring down inflation. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
And big cuts today at Paramount. The company saying it has slashed around 800 jobs, impacting around 3% of its workforce. Paramount, which owns TV networks like CBS, is trying to reduce costs as it moves away from traditional television. Its streaming services, including Paramount Plus and Pluto TV, lost over $1 billion last year. Federal judges across the United States are being threatened at an increasing rate, according to new data from the U.S. Marshals Service. U.S. Marshals investigated 457 serious threats made in fiscal year 2023. That is more than double the number of investigations that were seen in 2021, and a further increase over 2019, which had 179 investigations. Federal prosecutors have also seen an increase in threats from 68 in 2021 to 155 in 2023. Again, more than doubling. Very concerning. And a warning if you bought a salad kit recently. Dole Fresh Vegetables is recalling some of its salad kits because of possible listeria. The company says they could have come into contact with cheese that was recalled for listeria contamination. No illnesses have been reported, but you should immediately throw out the items if you have them. The real estate website Redfin is adding an air quality rating to its online listings of available homes. Under the climate tab, users can check how often they should expect poor air quality throughout the year at any given property. Reports show roughly 1 in 4 Americans suffer from poor air quality throughout the year across the country. The days of COVID quarantines could soon be gone. The CDC is considering loosening its isolation recommendations for the first time since 2021. The most recent guidance was 5 days of isolation for people who test positive for COVID-19. The proposed change means people wouldn't have to stay home if they've been fever-free for at least 24 hours, much like what's recommended when you get infected by the flu and RSV. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We are taking the pulse of America.
It's been almost a week since State Board of Education member Natalie Klein shared a post on social media targeting a Utah student. That post has since been deleted, but the Granite School District voted Friday night demanding Klein step down, calling her actions, quote, cowardly, harmful, and unacceptable. Mill Creek City Manager Mike Winder says tonight they're joining Granite.
You know, the Granite School Board made that invitation, their resolution, for neighboring school districts and communities and elected officials to join their voice in speaking out.
In their resolution, they say, quote, the Mill Creek community deplores bullying of our children in any form, especially when done by an adult.
And we're a very inclusive community, and it really hurts when anyone, especially a child, is being bullied.
Some students and staff at Marymount High School are afraid to be in school after Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers said a student there had planned a mass shooting with an out-of-state co-conspirator. She says it would have happened had another student not heard about the plan and reported it.
I know a lot of teachers have just been losing sleep over knowing that
this could have happened, and knowing that our students are really scared or feeling overwhelmed with emotions.
The 14-year-old student is charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. Right now, it's the only person facing charges in the case. Prosecutor Melissa Powers wants him tried as an adult. If convicted, the maximum sentence is life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years. If tried and convicted in juvenile court, the maximum sentence is confinement until his 21st birthday.
One in a million.
Charlotte, the 12 to 14-year-old Stingray, is pregnant in a tank with no male stingrays. At first, Brenda Raymer, the founder of Team Echo, didn't believe it.
People have written and said, well, they can hold male sperm, for years. And I'm like, she's never been around a male until we put those two little boys in here.
That's when she noticed the bite marks on Charlotte's body, a habit of mating sharks. Meet Mo and Larry, one of whom could be the father of Charlotte's pups.
Do you want the net or you just want to?
I can
just bring them up? Okay.
Mo and Larry were thought to be too young to be able to reproduce. We'll soon find out if that's true.
She's the girl you want. She's the girl you want.
The other explanation and the more likely scenario, Charlotte is going through a very rare process called parthenogenesis, in which the eggs develop on their own without fertilization and create a clone of their mother.
Well, coming up, the latest research into the health benefits of chocolate, especially when it comes to the brain. We will be right back. The age-old question, chocolate, good for you, bad for you? Researchers are weighing in again, saying you might want to consider eating chocolate for the health of it. Medical reporter Liz Bonas has details on the sweet news.
Just in time for Valentine's Day, some sweet news. At least in some people, this study found chocolate may be good for brain cognition, memory, and thinking. So if you happen to think there's nothing better than a big bowl of chocolate this Valentine's Day,
Valentine's Day is a big part of the chocolate experience.
join the hundreds of customers who come in this week to Ohio's Maverick Chocolate just for the flavanols.
They help with heart disease, with vascular disease, with cancer, and they make people happy.
Dr. Frank Bureau is a physician who just happens to be a frequent customer here for his wife.
You can go around the world with dark chocolate.
And especially in dark chocolate, flavanols are natural compounds that may relieve what's called oxidative stress and inflammation. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found cocoa extract containing flavanols helps the brain in those with poor diets compared to a placebo. The study looked at nearly 600 older adults and saw this improvement in the cocoa subjects after following them for 2 years. So no matter your pleasure,
Our most popular chocolate bar of all is one called a Prohibition. which is infused with bourbon and then sprinkled with smoked sea salt.
Chocolate may be the smart brain choice, and maybe not just for Valentine's Day.
I come by here for Christmas, for Valentine's Day, for her birthday. She's a chocoholic, and this is her heaven.
Now, we do need about 400 milligrams, they say, of these flavonols for best benefit to the body. A dark chocolate bar can give you about 30 milk chocolate, about half that. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. And coming up, spending a sweet penny on your sweet tooth. The biggest reason you'll have to pay more for chocolate this Valentine's Day, and it's not what you think. We'll be right back. Well, you can expect to pay more for chocolates this Valentine's Day. That's thanks to a surge in cocoa prices. Even some of the most popular chocolate companies are struggling to make a profit. And it all stems from climate issues in West Africa, responsible for more than half of the world's cocoa production. Prices have more than doubled since the start of 2023, and many manufacturers are passing along those increases to customers. New Orleans, the city with the largest and best known Carnival celebrations, in peak action this evening. Parades, parties, fancy masked balls, live music, Cajun cooking, not to mention hundreds of thousands of people filling the streets in what is expected to be the best post-pandemic crowd we've seen yet. Also known as Fat Tuesday, it's a holiday that's been celebrated for centuries and refers to the events of the Carnival celebrations beginning after the Christian feasts of the Epiphany and culminating the day before Ash Wednesday. The first documented Mardi Gras parade occurred all the way back in 1837. Happy Mardi Gras to those of you who are celebrating. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage of America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Have a wonderful night.